Good morning. I want to thank you here for joining me today for the 2013 fiscal year Erie County proposed budget release. My first budget as Erie County Executive. I'm pleased to be joined by our Budget Director, Bob Keating, as well as other members of the Budget Division staff who've been working diligently on this budget for truthfully months. As a public official, I'm ever mindful of the need to be a careful steward of the county's finances, and I constantly work to ensure that the residents get fair, transparent, and honest budgeting. In previous years as controller, my job was to report directly to the people on the real financial condition of the county and to provide an independent analysis of the executive's budget. As county executive, I still believe in telling the residents and taxpayers the real story and not hiding behind the sort of smoke and mirrors that my predecessors have relied on. Above all, my 2013 proposed budget, which is being released today, is a fair and responsible budget that is balanced, transparent, and reflects the priorities of my administration. This budget represents an understanding that as a county government, we are here to serve the residents of our community, to provide the services that they've repeatedly called for, services that often government can only provide best. Now, budgeting is a delicate balancing act. We are charged with making the most of our finite resources, which often leads to making some very hard, difficult decisions. Something that I never shied away from as controller, and I never will shy away from as county executive. I am proud to say that in this budget, we have not only maintained, but in some cases enhanced the services and programs that residents have demanded, but we've also acknowledged the hard fiscal realities that face Erie County. We have the evidence to show that the county's financial picture was not quite as rosy as it was claimed to be by the prior administration. The 2009 through 2011 budget surpluses that my predecessor hung his hat on were artificially maintained by over $105 million of stimulus funding, while simultaneously eliminating services that the public needs, wants, and expects. This year, we've tightened our belts while still providing the quality of life services that the public demands. We have met many of the financial challenges that have confronted us, and based on the current fiscal trends, I expect to show in 2012 a modest year-end surplus of $4.25 million. I firmly believe that we are on the path to financial stability and prosperity. We can see it on the horizon in front of us. However, this 2013 budget in some ways is the most challenging that the county has faced since the red-green fiscal crisis. You can say in some ways we're facing the perfect storm for 2013. With the convergence of new state and federal government mandates and significant declines in several revenue lines, including our property tax assessment levy. For example, with regards to increase in mandated costs, counties in New York are required by state law to pay for more than 40 mandated programs that account for approximately 90% of our total budget, and there's a list of them there. These are not the programs that most people associate with county government, but these are the programs that make up 90% of county government. And one of the largest, of course, is the local share of Medicaid, which alone accounts for nearly all of Erie County's property tax levy. The 2013 proposed budget for the general fund is almost $1.385 billion, which represents a 2.1% increase, or $30 million this year. This increase is due almost exclusively to increases in state-mandated costs and other costs we have no control over. These costs include a $17 million increase in the fringe benefit line, which is driven by an 8% increase in health insurance expenses, an 11.3% increase in state-mandated pension payments, and a 42% increase in workers' compensation expenses. We do not control these lines. This increase of near $30 million is also driven by an $8 million increase in the county's state-mandated Medicaid share to $219.7 million total. Now, we were expecting to see some savings with regards to the new Medicaid cap that's in place, and we are receiving some savings. But 2013 is one of those years that we get in a perfect storm every 4 years, where because of the way the calendar falls, instead of making 52 Medicaid payments in a year like we usually do, we're required to pay 53 Medicaid payments in 2013. It is actually $4.1 million higher than we would have paid if it wasn't for this anomaly with the schedule. So that's another $8 million increase that we don't control, directly related to Medicaid. We are also going to put in, and have to put in, approximately $3 million for 30 new sworn deputy correction officers, 3 civilian positions, and 2 mental health aides as required by the Commission of Corrections report for the holding center and jail, as well as the Department of Justice settlement that was entered into. That is in addition to the 15 deputies that we had to put in this past year, 2012, under the Commission of Corrections report. These are things that we do not control, and they are contributing to the $30 million growth in the budget. Another issue that we had to deal with this year is declining revenues, and that is the #1 area that concerns us the most. Property tax assessment growth has ended. Coupled with the increased cost, for the first time in more than a decade, and only the 4th time since 1979, Erie County will be facing an equalized tax base that will decrease, meaning the county will see less property tax revenue in 2013 than we actually saw in 2012. This is happening because many of the county's largest property tax owners, national chains, big box retailers, developers, not residential property owners, are challenging their assessments, and many local assessors are not regularly or accurately assessing properties, something that we'll be discussing in greater detail as time goes by in the upcoming weeks. The county has grown accustomed to usual property tax assessment growth. It's benefited both the general fund and the library. For example, between 2008 and 2012, the county averaged a 3.15% annual increase in the levy just based on assessment growth. If we take it back a little further, between 2005 and 2009, the county averaged 5.2%. So essentially, over the past decade, the county's been seeing increases in its property tax levy as a result of assessment growth, not a change necessarily in the tax rate. And that was the expectation of my predecessor in his 4-year plan when he proposed last year that there would be 2% growth for 2013. That 2% growth would have generated an additional $5.1 million in income. However, we're not seeing 2% growth. We're not seeing 1% growth. We have the hard numbers now for 2013 from all the assessors across the county, and we're actually going to generate $422,000 less in 13 than we would in 12. So that's actually a complete loss of $5.5 million from what was the expectation of the prior administration. That's something we don't, once again, control. That is in the control of the property assessors, which are not Erie County, but all the cities, towns, and villages. And it's something we'll be talking about more as time goes by and how the county can address that issue. Another area that's been significant concern of us on the revenues is the loss of state and federal aid. Both the state and federal governments are understandably tightening their own belts. However, instead of addressing their own spending problems, they're cutting assistance to local governments, in some ways passing the buck down to us. Not only are the costs associated with those 40 mandates I mentioned increasing, but the assistance we receive from state and federal governments to pay for them is decreasing. According to the New York State Association of Counties, New York counties will lose more than $300 million annually in the recently passed budget. We don't control that. We have to deal with it. I'll just give you one example. The county's share at the crime lab at Central Police Services, something that we need to provide, something that we provide on behalf of all the people of Western New York, not just the people of Erie County, will be losing $675,000 alone in 2012 compared to what we had to deal with in 2013 compared to what we received in 2012. And it's across the board like that: daycare, foster care, probation, district attorney operations, public health, homeland security, and others. What we're seeing are the grants that previously were provided to the government have dried up. And then we have the things that the people are demanding. We kind of call those the people's mandated programs. When I was elected last year, I heard the message loud and clear. The public demands certain quality of life and locally driven programs and services to be funded, regardless of what Albany and Washington mandates push down on us. The public rejected an administration that for several years did not increase property taxes, but it cut important quality of life programs and services. These programs may not be mandated by state and federal government, but they're mandated by the residents of Erie County. And despite the challenges I've mentioned today, I am able to present a budget that will maintain and enhance these programs in a responsible manner. Specifically, this budget makes good on my promise to safeguard our public library system. The library, which unfortunately had received cuts in the past, which are not based on practical reality, but based on cuts from one person, This budget will remove the politics and ensure stable funding levels without fear of arbitrary cuts. We've increased the funding of the library back to what it was prior to the Collins cuts in 2010, actually increasing it by $300,000, and we've given all of that money to the property tax levy for the library. So once the budget is passed, there can be no monkeying around with the library's money. They will receive it. And that has not always happened in the past. We also, based on the recommendations from the newly created Erie County Arts Board, have awarded $5.57 million to our community's cultural institutions based on need and merit. This represents an increase of $148,000 based on a level that was passed in the 2012 budget. And what I'm most proud of, we opened up funding to new organizations. 14 organizations that did not get funding in 2012 will be receiving funding in 2013. But I will note for the record, not every organization that asked for funding will get funding. There were a number of organizations that requested funding that were not recommended by the Erie County Arts Cultural Board, and as such, I fulfilled the wishes of the board, and we did not recommend funding for those organizations. We also maintain current funding levels for what arguably might be one of the most popular programs that we have in Erie County government, the rodent control, the rat patrol. Not a surprise, but when the rodent control program was cut previously, the rats didn't go away. Instead, they multiplied to levels we had not seen in this community for many years. Since that time when it was restored in March, we've seen over 2,500 service calls to the rodent control hotline, and our folks, led by Pete Trippy, are going out there and taking care of rats wherever they live in Erie County. It's one of the most popular programs we have, and we're not cutting them. We're also continuing funding for the important education and anti-crime program, Operation Crime Time. Not only does this program keep kids off the street and out of trouble over the summer, it offers kids access to positive development activities that will help prepare them for the coming school year and for the rest of their lives. This keeps down crime and is a good program. And we're also renewing our commitment to invest in our aging infrastructure by increasing the pay-as-you-go road fund by $700,000 to $6.9 million. I've heard it from both sides of the aisle in the legislature. We need to invest in our deteriorating infrastructure, and that's what we will be doing in this budget. And one of the ways that we're doing it is it was passed bipartisanly by Democrats and Republicans as part of the 2013 Capital Budget Committee. We're increasing our capital improvements program to $39 million. Working in concert with Democrats and Republicans on the Capital Budget Committee, we agreed that if there's one area that warrants some increased spending, it's on our long-term capital. It's to fix the deteriorating and ailing roads and bridges that we have in Erie County. Additionally, we will be, once again, focusing on creating a better, more safe environment in our parks by working on shelters, working on roads, and other things through the capital budget. Now that we've done this, you ask me, how do we pay for it? Let me tell you. Mandated costs are going up, and our revenues, unfortunately, to cover them are going down, so how do we pay for this? Well, I'm not taking my predecessor's approach and just throwing up my hands and blaming Albany and saying we can't do anything. Make no mistake about it, folks, there is no silver bullet approach to solve these issues. There are no more stimulus dollars coming in to bail out Erie County. Because of this, we needed to take a balanced approach, a responsible approach, a all-of-the-above approach. First, we started with departmental cuts. This budget includes cuts to various expenditure lines in every single department. I understand, though, that this must be done with a scalpel, not a hatchet. It certainly is a great talking point to say that government is bloated and you can cut it tremendously amount. And you know what? That happened in the past. Erie County was one of them in the past. It's not anymore. Because since the red-green fiscal cuts, as well as the cuts of the previous administration, Erie County government has been in many ways cut not only to the bone, but through it. Despite this, we made the difficult decision to find positions that may hurt to cut, but which we can still live without. We have identified 63 positions for elimination in the budget in 2013, many of which are vacant, most of which are vacant, 10 of them are occupied. Because nearly every one of our departments is understaffed, none of these cuts will truthfully be easy. But none of them will jeopardize the provision of services to the people of this community. This is a rapid departure from last year when my predecessor took a hatchet to the Department of Social Services, cutting 218 positions, many of which would receive 100% reimbursement from the state and federal government. They didn't come up with any savings, but they jeopardized the county's ability to provide vital mandated services with almost no real county savings. Cuts were made for the sake of cuts. Even with the positions that we were cut, we were forced, of course, to create new positions for the jail and the holding center. And as a result, there will be 28 lower positions in 2013 than today. Let me reiterate, county government is not growing, it's actually getting smaller. There will be less employees on the payroll in 2013 than there will be in 2012. Now, there were departments in which we could not make cuts in good conscience. Cuts that had, truthfully, departments that had seen tremendous cuts in the past. For example, parks or our highway department. That doesn't mean they're being asked to do less, because they are. We included in this budget across-the-board reductions in spending for non-personnel services lines in every department, including travel, office supplies, equipment, professional services, and so on. Every department is being asked to help pay for the budget. Fund balance usage. This budget uses $5.4 million in fund balance, a level that was already previously approved by the Control Board during the revised four-year plan that we presented to them last April. This is to use to help further bridge the gap. Nearly every local government and school district in Western New York is doing the same thing. Now, $5.4 million is significantly less than what had been used in prior budgets, and we still have and maintain a healthy fund balance of $83 million, which is approximately what the rating agencies want to keep us as fund balance. We're not going to go back to the days where we had $200 million worth of fund balance. That was too big. But we need to keep the fund balance at about that $80 million mark, and that's what we'll be doing. And considering we're projecting a $4.25 million surplus for 2012, what we're in fact doing is reinvesting that entire surplus into 2013 through the use of $5.4 million of fund balance. So we're going to keep the fund balance level at about $83 million, and we're reinvesting our surplus from 2012 into 2013. Now, even with cutting positions and spending across all the departments and using a responsible amount of fund balance, we still found ourselves with an $8 million budget gap. We had no choice but to do a modest property tax increase. We are proposing a property tax increase of 3.4%, which will take the rate per thousand from $5.03 to $5.21 per thousand of assessed value. It's an 18-cent increase. This will provide the additional $8.09 million we need to cover the budget gap. Let me put this in perspective. $5.8 million of this will be kept by the county, with $2.3 million, or 28% of it, going directly to the libraries through increasing their property tax levy to $22.171 million. So if people think all of this is going for your government, well, it's all going for government for worthwhile programs and services like the library. Now, comparing Erie County to other counties, you need to understand where we are in comparison to other counties, not only across New York State, but Western New York. Specifically, Erie County presently ranks among the lowest county property taxes in New York State. At $5.03, we're the 13th lowest county property tax rate in the state, and with the increase to $5.21, we'll still be the 13th lowest property tax rate in the state. I think it's important to understand that, and when you make the comparison to where our neighbors are just in Western New York, you'll see that we're doing a pretty good job here in Erie County of maintaining tax rates. Monroe County is $8.99. Onondaga County is $5.56. Chautauqua, $9.22. Niagara, $7.36. Wyoming, $8.34. Genesee, $9.89. They've got much higher property tax rates than we do here. And every day we see stories coming across the wires about all the counties in New York State that are facing difficulties and how they're having to go above the property tax cap of 2%. Some, like St. Lawrence County, are proposing a 20% property tax increase. They're in dire straits. We're not in dire straits. We have issues to address, but we're not in dire straits. In fact, we're not even going up to the property tax cap. The modest increase leaves us $2.29 million below the property tax cap. So compared to many other municipalities, even here in Erie County, towns, school districts, and villages that are going above the property tax cap, Erie County is not. Now let me give you a perspective on the 18-cent increase. For the average Erie County homeowner, which is around a house valued at $100,000, this is an increase of $18. $18. That's less than the cost for the 2 for $20 menu at Applebee's. It's less than the cost for the special menu that's being offered in Restaurant Week this year. And this is how much it is a month, folks. $1.50. $1.50. You can probably pull that much change outside of your car or the couch cushions in your living room. That's what we're talking about. And that $1.50 per month is going to maintain the quality of life programs that the public demands. The public is spoken clearly. They want libraries funded. They want arts and culturals funded. They want rodent control funded. They want sheriff's road patrols funded. They want the roads fixed. They're demanding these high quality of life issues. And in the end, that's what we're talking about, is a choice. I've often said that county government, first and foremost, is a provider of services. While that sounds simple enough, especially because so many of them, as you noted, and I noted, were mandated, it is far more challenging to actually address this than it talks about. Every day we're confronted with two main questions that I pose to the taxpayers and the people of Erie County. The first is, what programs and services do you want? And that's the easy one to answer, because when you talk to the public, they want it all. They want every service they can get. The next question is the tough one. What are you willing to pay for it? Again, as I've noted, a budget is a balancing act. We have to balance the mandated services with the demands and needs of the public. And this year, we even have less wiggle room than we did in the past. In electing me as their county executive, the public said they wanted a better quality of life. And that includes their libraries open and free from politics or arbitrary cuts. A vibrant cultural community that is contributing to the economic growth of Buffalo and Erie County. Someone to help them if they got a rat problem. Providing programs to keep their kids learning and out of trouble over the summer. Maintaining vital public safety services like our Sheriff's Road Patrol. Safe and clean parks with shelters and facilities for individuals to enjoy year-round. I will note safe is an important one. And that potholes are fixed and that dangerous roads are opened and bridges are taken care of, so we do not have the disasters here in Erie County that have been seen in other parts of the country when a bridge collapses or a road has to be shut down and causes an accident. And as I promised, I will do whatever I can to ensure that those programs and services are provided not only effectively, but as efficiently as possible. For the first time in several years, Erie County residents have a budget that doesn't tell them what should be important to them and what they can and cannot have. It listens to them and provides them what they have asked for, while meeting our mandated responsibilities in a way that ensures we continue down a path of fiscal stability. I'm pleased with this budget. It's not been an easy one to address. It's a good budget that's fair and it's balanced, and I look forward to presenting it before the legislature. If you have any questions, I'll be